Hi, everyone. This is Gabriella once again, and this is another video in the series that I'm doing to illuminate and explain the different care modalities that I use in my work with my spiritual care clients. Not just for I'm not doing this series just for the purpose of, quote unquote, advertising my services, but to just help people of course, understand my work, but also to be able to perhaps be exposed to various spiritual practices that they may not otherwise know about. Or if they already do know about them, to be able to come to a deeper appreciation for those practices. This is also a series for spiritual care providers who are seeking to expand their own awareness of the different modalities that they might offer to their clients, and or to gain new insights into the modalities that they already use with their clients. So this particular video is focused on my work in the vein of creating talismans for my clients. By talismans, I mean actual, either physical or digital objects and emblems that can help them to feel more equipped and confident as they go about their spiritual journeys. And this is, of course, something that is not unique to me. It's certainly not a new thing to create talismans in support of people's lives and spiritual journeying. Talismans have been a part of spiritual traditions for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years at this point, and to um, uh, craft talismans for me is a way of helping my work, which can, be primarily virtual, just given that most of my clients, I meet with them virtually. It's a way for me to help my practice to feel a bit more embodied by virtue of making objects for clients as requested by them. But it's also a way of affirming the embodied nature of the spiritual experience. And it is also, I would say, a bit of a rebuttal to some of the certainly the secular and kind of intellectually laden paradigms that we are familiar with these days that prioritize mind over matter, both from like a kind of atheistic sort of perspective, but also in the vein of transcendental sort of approaches to spirituality that kind of dismiss the beauty and the importance of the incarnate material experience. And especially within, one of the traditions that I belong to is the Protestant Christian tradition that, for better or for worse, has, sought to do away with superstitious ways of viewing reality. And there's, an absolute beauty to you could call it minimalism of most Protestant traditions when compared to like Orthodox or Catholic counterparts. But especially the puritanical faction of the Protestant Reformation unfortunately contributed to a denigration, I would say, of material reality such that we've lost touch with the value to adorning our bodies with talismans, whether of like the, tattoo sort or jewelry and particular types of clothing, and also adorning our homes and our lives generally with talismans that help to signal to the internal realms within us and also to the external realms outside of us, what it is that we're seeking to invite into our lives and what we are inviting to stay at a distance from us. So the talismans that I have made for people run a very wide gamut in terms of types of talismans and the materials that I've used. Some of them include paper, like paper art, such as this one that I made for myself, that at least at this point in time forms the basis for the logo for my Substack and my business. But I've also created talismans of the embroidered sort. Here's one that I made recently for my partner and my home. And I have also made talismans of the digital sort, creating logos or digital icons, you could say, for people to use either in their business or as a template for a tattoo that they, had a tattoo artist adorn their body with. Um, as well as many other modalities. I consider written, like works as a form of talisman as well, a sort of charm to help people feel more confident and protected and accompanied on their journey. So if you are someone who for whatever reason is wanting to have a talisman, a sort of charm, whether, very concretely physical like this, or something that could also be digital, such as, a logo for, something that's important to you or a template for a tattoo. I have on my website a whole page dedicated to the talismans that I make, and it has portfolios of different categories of art mediums that I work in, with photos of examples of talismans that I've crafted. And if any of that speaks to you, there's a form that you can complete in order to help me get a sense of what the talisman is that you're, wanting, what it's meant to invite into your life, or to, push back against, protect you from. And obviously there are many artists in the world who are able to make bespoke art for people. So this is certainly not something that's unique to me per se. I'm just maybe if there's a uniqueness to what I'm offering, it's the fact that it is so heavily informed by the person, what it is that I'm creating for them, namely and especially from a spiritual perspective. These talismans are not meant to be like, a cool piece of art to put in your home for, just a sort of aesthetic benefit, but it's actually meant to help deepen and strengthen your own spirituality, your own sense of connection to whatever, you understand the spiritual reality to be. And for those who are sort of like thinking that this is quote unquote lesser form of like spiritual care than say a one-on-one session for spiritual direction or dream work, or whatever my other modalities are. I just want to invite an exploration as to the relationship with the material world that might be going on there, just because it's actually more historically common for people to appreciate talismanic support, at the very least as like equivalent to kind of one-on-one conversational support of the type that my other offerings are a bit more in line with. And given that we're living in a era that's very defined by disembodied, approaches to moving through reality, and also a lot of devastation within the material world of like, climate collapse, sort, among others. It's can be a really beautiful process to reacquaint ourselves with the material elements of the spiritual experience, including through crafts such as embroidery and paper focused artwork, and other mediums. So, of course, one is also able to make their own talismans if you are someone who already has an artistic practice, whether it's with needle and thread, or paintbrushes, or pen and pencils. You can obviously take those creative crafts of yours and view them as spaces where you are inviting in inspiration from powers that are greater than your own individual creative capacities, to inform you as to what is seeking to come through you, and what might be beneficial either for you or for a community that you are in relationship with, in terms of what kind of creations uh, could be helpful for you or for that community. The our art historically was always a devotional process. There was no art that was done that wasn't related to devotional offerings until very recently in human history. So creating talismans for yourself of the artistic sort is a really rich spiritual practice that has a long history across many traditions, depending on either your blood ancestry or other types of lineages that you belong to. It's basically guaranteed that if you Google, talisman or charm or folk art, for that tradition, that you'll find some really beautiful inspirations that can inform, a creative practice for yourself moving forward, that I highly encourage you to imbue a spiritual sort of approach to, including, or perhaps, for example, uttering prayers as you do your art, or opening and closing your creative sessions with invocations and statements of gratitude. And like conversely, if you are well, I guess resonantly, whatever sort of starting point you're going from, whether you're deeply spiritual but not very creative, or you're creative but not very spiritual, or you're both but you've kept those things separate, I highly recommend bringing a conscious spiritual approach to your creative practice, and or bringing a conscious creative practice to your spiritual life, because that inevitably opens up a lot of worlds to help us understand whatever it is that we are devoted to, from a spiritual and creative lens. So if you would like for someone like me to create a bespoke talisman for you, to help you feel more supported or witnessed, or encouraged as you navigate a major life transition or a threshold that you're about to cross, I would be honored to have a conversation with you about it. The way that it works is someone fills out the form for a bespoke talisman request on my website, then we schedule a Zoom call to talk about the project, and then I create it for you, pending an agreement that this would be a good match to work together in this way. And of course, right, you can also develop your own process of creating a talisman for yourself. And there are other artists and folks out there who can, of course, create art for you to help you on your journey. But wherever your creative and spiritual paths lead you, I hope that you are able to find some gentle and accessible ways to bring further together a sort of incarnate creative process of the artistic sort, with whatever your spiritual needs and longings are. So thank you so much for listening, and for just taking interest in my work. Of course, if you have any questions or comments based on the information in this video, you're more than welcome to message me, and I will answer your questions and comments to the best of my abilities. Thanks so much.